Right off the bat, I want to start with the good things. Because actually, there are a lot of good things with working in Japan. When you look at Western media, you might have the image that working in Japan is hell and nobody should ever do it. But in reality, it's not that bad. If we take overtime, for example, something that Japan is infamous for, it's actually become a lot better. And now there is actually more overtime work in places like the US or Canada or even the UK. And so that has really helped because people have pushed Japan for so long that they're actually taking overtime seriously now. Same goes for harassment. Sexual harassment and power harassment used to be huge issues in Japan, but now they've been discussed so much and there's so many policies implemented in Japanese companies that it's actually getting better by the day. And let's not forget the thing that Japan is known for: quality. And the thing is that this is something I can attest to, that everyone from the CEO to the janitor in any company takes quality work super seriously. Everyone treats their job like it's everything and that it's really important to do well. And of course, that has some negatives, but also some real big positives. Like, I can't count how many times in the West, or in almost every country basically, I've seen people, customer facing people that don't take their job seriously. Janitors that don't clean, or cashiers that, treat their customers really poorly. And everybody just seems to be okay with it, like a staff member doesn't do their job and everybody's like, well, they have low pay, so whatever, they should do their job poorly. And yeah, pay could definitely be better for lower level staff in Japan too, but it's so beautiful to see a janitor really take their space of cleaning super seriously and doing a good job every day, like their life depends on it. That is just really admirable and something I really think is beautiful and good about Japanese working culture. But of course, there are some really bad things. And the first thing I want to talk about is resistance to change. Japan has two major issues in the workplace, and one of them is that the country is really old. In fact, it's the oldest country in the world. And the second issue is that most companies have a seniority based system, basically meaning that the longer you work there, the more promotions you get, even if you're not the smartest tool in the shed. And this problem has accumulated because you see, in the 40s, most people were young and they saw their opportunities and security in the workplace. So they were creative, they did a bunch of overtime work and did a really good job, right, at the chance of becoming a manager one day. But as the years passed, the situation got worse and worse, where you have a bunch of older people being senior manager and not that many young people in the junior positions, because every year less and less people are born here and more people are old. So now you have this really resistant to change culture where sadly most people in Japan don't want to see change because they're retiring soon anyways. And so you end up with companies, especially in office work, where you have really old tools to do basic things. Like, for example, you probably heard about this, but Excel is king in this country. And that is because it's one of the few tools that older people feel comfortable with. And so, instead of using scheduling tools or specific tools for specific tasks, they just use Excel for everything. So we have Excel sheets for attendance or Excel sheets for really complicated planning with 1,000 different sheets and, sheets that are so big you need a supercomputer to run them, right? And this is all because older people are just scared of anything new. I mean, this is a great example of this guy who's an artist in Excel. And you look at that and think, oh wow, that's really cool. But I just think the guy doesn't even know that there's other tools than Excel to do anything. And this leads me to my second issue. Working in Japan, I've realized how many people are just unmotivated to do anything. Like, you have people my age or younger people who just see work as something they need to be at. Even if they have to do overtime, to just sit and try to do as little as possible. I think that quiet quitting is probably bigger in Japan than in any other country I've been in. In fact, even though there's not a specific word for quiet quitting, there are so many terms that are used and mean basically the same thing. Like basically, take madogiwazoku. That means a person sitting next to the window, and it refers to people who usually are senior and got a window seat at the office, and all they do all day is just look out the window because they have no real tasks to do, they can't get fired, and they just sit there waiting for retirement. And another term is yureisha, which basically means ghost person. These are people, there's so many of them in Japanese offices. They look like they're working very hard. They always sit in front of their computer. And even if you go up to them, you will see some Excel sheet or something going on in their computer. But nobody can actually tell what they're doing at the company. Again, just different forms of quiet quitting in Japanese ways. And this is so sad because this used to be the country that gave us the Walkman and Nintendo and countless other amazing innovations. And now we see people just being unmotivated to do anything because of the seniority-based structure where they know that, the company's not doing well, so they might not even be promoted anyways. And even if they get promoted, they have to work for 5-10 years before a promotion comes, even if they do a good job. I think these problems are systemic in Japan. And even though they're getting better, there's still huge issues with these systems, taking so much away from workers that are talented and that should be motivated to do the next great thing Japan has to offer. But instead, they're just stuck in desk jobs when they end up doing nothing.